I want every white person in this room who would be happy to be treated as this society in general treats our citizens, our black citizens. If you, as a white person, would be happy to receive the same treatment that our black citizens do in this society, please stand. You didn't understand the directions. If you white folks want to be treated the way blacks are in this society, stand. Nobody's standing here. That says very plainly that you know what's happening. You know you don't want it for you. I want to know why you're so willing to accept it or to allow it to happen for others.
We are all racist. Every single one of us who look like me, who are watching this video, we are racist. And let me explain what I mean by that. Because if you would have told me that a few years ago, I would have come out of my corner swinging saying, no way, I am not. I have worked in the criminal justice system for decades and I've seen the systemic racism there and fought against it. I have biracial children and I have seen the way the world looks at my children who are of a minority race versus my children who look like me. And I would have said no way. But here is the thing. The more I learn, the more I realize just how much I don't know. Because there are two types of racism. There's the kind of racism that comes from the hate in your heart, and I don't have that. I never have, and I suspect very many of you don't have it either. But there is another kind of racism that comes from ignorance, and that abounds in my life. Even me who thought that I knew a lot about seeing systemic racism. But here's what I've learned. The more I learn, the more I realize how unintentionally racist I have been in so many things. And it is on us now, white people, to educate ourselves. We're never going to fully grasp what it means to live in a world where you are the minority and where the system has been set up for hundreds and hundreds of years to benefit people who look like me and to oppress people who look like my children. But we have got to educate ourselves. I'm going to start listing several books and documentaries that I've been watching to educate myself. And I hope any of you who really want this world to be a better place, we have got to start with the foundation that all men and women are created equal. And we have got to set new rules for how we move in this society if we're going to have that. I need to apologize to the friends, the clients, the people I interacted with for so many years because I thought I wasn't racist, and I'm not as far as the part that comes out of hate. But the part that is born from ignorance, I'm sorry. I should have done better, and I am learning. For those of you who are watching this who are minorities, please put your advice in the comments. Books, documentaries, movies, or just your life experiences. I want to learn and I want to help others learn because I don't want you or your children or my children to live in a world that is designed to fail them. Okay, so let's start this series of educating ourselves in order to make this world a better place. Go love your neighbor.
Is this what
gentleman grabbed me inside.
Do you have a receipt for this, sir?
I got you on. Yes, sir.
Show me.
You got it in your hand, sir. He grabbed me.
That's Journeys.
He held me against my will. He said I grabbed something. I got my Macy's bag and my receipt. I will be coming to the lawyer. He detained me, and I got it on film. I don't want any problems, but I have to take this.
Okay, Don,
I don't know.
got a receipt for that.
I don't know why he did me like this. I'm scared. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, he's got a receipt right now.
He grabbed me by my arm. I'm just shopping.
740. Yeah, he's got it.
You shouldn't have did me like that. I'm
Okay,
going to
I'll
my
go
lawyer.
and look in the fitting room, but he definitely is good to go. Sir, you have my deepest apology.
Not going to be that simple, sir,
Here,
but okay.
Right here. Major Meckler, M-E-C-H.
You see how they act? You see how they act? But it's all good. Thank you, God. We're going to get them.
Do you think Afrikaner farmers are the most persecuted group in the world?
I think those 49 people that came certainly felt they were persecuted, and they passed every sort of check mark that had to be checked off in terms of meeting the requirements for that. They live in a country where farms are taken and land is taken on a racial basis.
Okay. Do you think they're more persecuted than Uyghurs or Rohingyas, or more persecuted than political dissidents in Cuba or Venezuela or Nicaragua, or more persecuted than those who would be threatened should they be returned to Afghanistan by violence by the Taliban?
Well, the problem we face there is the volume problem, okay? If you look at all the persecuted people of the world, it's millions of people. They can't all come here. And we had refugee programs.
So
that were
why,
acting as a magnet for
why
people to come here.
prioritize Afrikaner farmers?
Well, because it's a small subset, it's a new issue, and the president identified it as a problem and wanted to use it as an example. But that's different from having these refugee programs that were basically spending money to put people up in communities and accommodate them, and it was acting as a magnet. Millions of people in this country illegally, and today the border is sealed.
Let me challenge you, and I'm just going to say for the public, if you want to understand about the, quote, persecution of Afrikaner farmers, go look at the composition of the South African government. Since July of 2024, there's a government of national unity, and the opposition party to the ANC, the Afrikaner Party, the Democracy Alliance, is part of the governing coalition. They joined the governing coalition a year ago, and the leader of that party was given the remit of Agriculture Minister, John Steenhuisen. He is the leader of the former Afrikaner Party, still widely representing Afrikaners. He is the Minister of Agriculture in South Africa right now. I assert that this claim that there's persecution of Afrikaner farmers is completely specious. Are you aware ever during the apartheid era in South Africa did the United States establish a special program to allow South African blacks who were treated as second-class citizens in the apartheid program, a special program that they could claim refugee status in the United States?
No, because I was probably in 9th grade or 8th grade at the time.
Yeah, well, then I don't expect you to know. I'll just tell you, never has there been a program, a special program for Africans to come in as refugees to the United States. We've allowed special programs for people being persecuted for their religion, Soviet-era Jews. We've allowed special programs for people fleeing from communism, Cuba, Vietnam, the Soviet Union. We've never allowed a special program to allow Africans into the United States in an expedited refugee status until now. Afrikaner farmers living in a nation governed by a government of national unity that includes the main Afrikaner Party. And actually, an even more right-wing Afrikaner Party is also included in the coalition government. Now, would you agree with me, Mr. Secretary, that if we're interpreting the statutory phrase, a well-justified fear of persecution, we should try to do that in an even-handed way?
I think we should try to do that in the interest of the national security of the United States.
So okay, I agree with you too. We should. Should we try to do it in an even-handed way? So, for example, should we say, if you're persecuted on the grounds of your religion, we'll let you in if you're a Christian, but not if you're a Muslim?
I think that the United States has a right to allow into this country and prioritize allowance of who they want to allow to come in.
But I'm going to ask you, what? Yeah. So a well-justified fear of persecution?
Yeah, they thought that their farms were being burned down and they would be killed. I think that's a pretty good justification for wanting to come. They're afraid for their lives.
And should it be applied in an even-handed way? That's an easy.
No, our foreign policy doesn't require even-handedness. It requires prioritizing the interests of the United States.
The phrase says you are entitled to entrance as a refugee if you demonstrate a well-justified fear of persecution.
No, you're not entitled.
So can you have a different standard based upon the color of somebody's skin? Would that be acceptable?
Well, I'm not the one arguing that. Apparently you are, because you don't like the fact that they're white, and that's why they're coming.
I'm just asking you to say that would be unacceptable.
Well, no, I would say that the United States,
a very easy thing to say.
The United States has a right to pick and choose who they allow into the United States.
Even based on the color of somebody's skin.
You're the one that's talking about the color of their skin, not me. These
are
people whose farms were being burned down and they were killed because of the color of their skin. Well, you've demonstrated enough because you think anyone should be allowed into this country for any reason because they met a certain criteria.
Who has said that?
We are going to prioritize people that come into our country on the basis of what's in the interest of this country. That's a small number of people that are coming.
But you said this weekend that
but
there
in other
would be more.
cases, it's harder to vet. In other cases, it's more difficult. And by the way, the United States admits people every year. 1 million people come to this country every year legally. 1 million.
And
people
now
a year come to this
there
country
is one
legally.
group
No
of
other
people that have an
is nearly
easy
as
pass into this country. For the first time, this administration has said Afrikaners get an easy pass and refugee programs for the remainder of the world are shut off. And you can't say to the American public that we should apply this statute in an even-handed way.
No, I
I'm
think it should
shocked
be
at that,
applied in a
and I
way.
yield
No, well, you
back.
shouldn't be shocked. It should be applied in the national interest of the United States. Our immigration policy should be based on the national interest of the United States. Period. End of story. If there is a subset of people that are easier to vet, who we have a better understanding of who they are and what they're going to do when they come here, they're going to receive preference, no doubt about it. There are a lot of sad stories around the world, millions and millions of people around the world. It's heartbreaking. We cannot assume millions and millions of people around the world. No country can. So you have to have a process of deciding who do you prioritize, who do you allow in. We do it all the time. We do it in our immigration system now under our current laws. Unfortunately, it's primarily based on family connection and not on what they're going to contribute to the society from a merit standpoint. That should be changed, but that'll require statutory changes. But the bottom line is this notion that somehow we have to accept anyone who wants to come to the United States is absurd. No country in the world has an immigration policy like that. Why
And no one is arguing that we should. I yield back, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much.
You know, if you're black and live in America, you will always have a story about an experience that you had with blatant racism. So for those of you who don't know, I served in the United States Air Force. So the year is 1984, and I had been accepted to start boot camp for the Air Force, but I needed to wait for another 6 weeks. So during the time that I'm waiting to start Air Force, I take this temporary job through a temp agency. And the temp agency calls me and they say, we have an assignment for you at a law firm. So I prepare myself, and I'm always very professional, and I put on my professional attire, and I show up to the assignment. So when I get to the assignment, it's a very small husband and wife law firm. And so I arrive early, and I walk into the law firm, and I am met with the wife. And I say to her, I'm here from blah, blah temp agency. And she had an expression on her face that I had never seen before. But this feeling came through my body. So she was a middle-aged white woman, and her husband had not gotten to the office yet. So she tells me to have a seat. Now, this assignment was for me to sit in their front office as a receptionist. The receptionist who worked there on a permanent basis went out on maternity leave, so they went to a temp agency, okay? So she goes in an office that's adjacent to the receptionist area, and I could hear her. She didn't know I could hear her, but I could hear her on the phone, and she had called her husband, and she's trying to figure out how they're gonna deal with this person in their front office. Shortly after, her husband arrives to the office, and he greets me, and then he goes in the office with his wife, and they try and gently let me know that my assignment has been terminated and that they have reached out to the temp agency. And I think I was there for no more than 30 minutes to an hour. Not one customer had arrived or anything of the sort. And I remember going home to my mom, and I was just like really confused. And you got to understand, I was 19 years old at the time, 18, 19. And I had never been so blatantly, treated in such a way. And so I told her what happened, and she gave me a really good talk about, being black in America, and that this is the first of many situations that I'm going to have to unfortunately deal with. And in today's climate, it's much different than it was back when I was 19. We don't tolerate those types of behaviors. We speak out more. There's a lot more laws in place, and a lot of things that I don't know. I can't really say that it has diminished racism, but there's a lot more protections in place. Let me just say it that way. The reason I'm sharing this story today is that throughout my life, I'm going to be 60 here, and all of the successes that I've had in life, I went on to serve in the Air Force, and I had a very successful career. I worked my way up to a vice president at my organization, all kinds of things. But I never, ever forgot the look on that woman's face. And throughout my life and my career, I have seen that look. I've seen that look in the grocery store. I've seen that look at, just walking down the street. I've seen that look at events. I know the look. We all know the look. Then to share my experience of blatant racism, and that when you see the look or you get that feeling that I got in the law office that day, it's a real thing. It's not your imagination. It's a real thing. Anyway, I love you guys. Have a great day.